I detect a very dangerous demon nearby.
I am not at my peak.
Burrows.
I detect a very dangerous demon nearby. You should consider getting out of here. I detect...
How about this? This can't be. I'm detecting a strong demon.
I thought you might turn up, young one. I have heard rumors about you. You were the famous demon hunter, or rather, samurai. Who could have known that you would be a samurai? Although you may not be aware of it, you have drawn your sword on your king.
Gaze upon this face, for I am none other than King Ahazuya of Mikado. I have been driven from my former station, hunted by angels, and forced to hide among the unclean ones. It is an embarrassment, to have my revenge. I have abandoned my status to attain the power to defeat the angels. Young one, if you truly are a samurai, then you will lend me your strength. This is an order from your king. So much for faithfulness to one's rightful king. Very well then. I shall prepare the sacrifice to the Overlord Baal myself, with your head!
Your sword now runs with the blood of your once and former king. This is the second time he has been killed. This man did not pray to God in his final moments. No, he prayed to me, Baal, for help instead. Betrayed by the god that he once worshipped, he sought something new to cling to. Even I felt sympathy for this king, who had nothing left to believe in but a mere idol that he found in books. And, feeling his desire for revenge, I answered his call to defeat God. I possessed his corpse to use as a body, but even in death he could not be free. So I shall take action, all for this pitiful and lonely ruler. Now then, son of man, your existence is in extreme danger, and one that cannot be allowed to continue. I am reluctant to do so, but in order to defeat you, I must take on my true form. You shall feel the might of an unmatched power that is worshipped through fear. The slaying of a king is like the slaying of a god. Now, I must put an end to your blood-streaked soul. But rejoice, for I shall use your body as my new vessel.
Burrows.
Then I will perform.
Die, everyone!
just as thousands of flies appear from filth, I will appear once again.
How about this? How about this? There! How about this? This can't be. How about this? There! Take this! How about this? I am not at my peak.
You